Welcome to the Jurist Law Podcast.
Welcome to the Jurist Law Podcast with Kimbro Stevens and Shane Cox. Kimbro serves as a managing attorney and Shane is a chief legal counsel at the Jurist Law Group. With rich backgrounds in healthcare and elder law, they help families navigate the complexities of long-term care, asset protection, and estate planning. I'm Evan Mack, and today we're talking about how to afford quality long-term care without losing everything you worked for. Nursing homes are expensive, Medicaid rules can be confusing, and waiting too long to plan can leave families scrambling. So how can you protect your home, your savings, and your dignity while still getting the care you need? Gentlemen, welcome.
Thank you, Evan, for having us today.
It's a pleasure. Shane, let's start with you. What do families in Arkansas usually experience when a loved one suddenly needs long-term care and they realize how much it costs?
A lot of people don't really realize that they're going to be the ones that's going to have to front that bill. And it's, if you ever take the time to look up how much an average nursing home cost is a month, it's pretty extreme. So they feel grief, they feel shocked, they feel like, why is the government, failing us? Who's going to take care of mom if the government's not going to just step in? It's a lot of pressure, and depending on the time of the year, if it's like it is right now at the time of this podcast, at the end of the year, it increases a lot of stressors that you might already have to be dealing with. So, and on top of it, there's the morbidity issue of, mom's getting sicker and or dad's getting sicker and their time's getting it's getting short. So it's a lot. It's crushing at times.
Kimbro, a lot of people assume Medicare will cover nursing home care. Why is that one of the biggest misconceptions that you run into?
Well, a lot of people, when they think of Medicare, they get confused. Medicare, Medicaid. A lot of times clients will come in and talk about Medicare when they're talking about Medicaid, or they don't understand what Medicaid is. And essentially what happens is if you go into a hospital and you have an episode and your loved one goes into what we call rehab, Medicare is paying for that, at least on the front end. Usually it'll pay 20 days, up to 100 days at a single episode if you need it, which is rare. But after that, then all of a sudden Medicare stops. Medicare is not a payer of what we call long-term care. It pays for rehab, but long-term care is when your loved one is no longer needing rehabilitation from a hospital stay. Then it becomes what we call private pay. There is no insurance for that. Medicare does not pay that unless you have a long-term care policy already in effect that's specific for what we call long-term care, or sometimes referred to as custodial care, maybe whether you're in a home or you're in a facility. Medicare does not pay for that. And so a lot of people get really confused and they think, well, I've got Medicare, doesn't that pay for that? And I have to explain, no, Medicare is for the doctor and the hospital and for a short stay after a hospital stay, but it does not care for your parents on a long-term basis. So you either pay out of pocket unless you have long-term care insurance, or that's where Medicaid comes in. And then people say, well, I thought that was for poor people. So we have to go through all that, about how that works and how Medicaid, and that's what we do as elder law attorneys. We educate a lot of people on Medicaid, what it means, and how to qualify for it, even when you have money. And hopefully we can discuss some of that today.
Absolutely. Shane, many families are shocked at how fast long-term care costs can drain those savings. What does the financial strain usually look like in real life, and how can, proper planning help protect what everyone's worked for?
So it really looks like between $8,000 or $9,000 on average in Arkansas a month. And those are real numbers that the family's going to have to come up with for those nurses and those other healthcare professionals to take care of them. Mm-hmm. And so Medicaid is saying, hey, we're not going to pay until you wait so many months, or if you haven't done any planning at all, you're just stuck with you're not eligible for Medicaid. Well, that's devastating for people who don't have high incomes.
So when should families start planning for that long-term care cost? Is it something that handled years ahead, or only once a health issue appears?
It's definitely because of the rules. There's a 5-year look back rule in Medicaid where they look back to you and your finances to see if the elderly person is giving anything away. So there's that and a few other rules kind of running in tandem. So to answer your question directly, it is best to plan as much as you can. But even if you can't, and you're in a situation where mom needs to go in a nursing home, with coming to us and experienced attorneys that do this for a living, can help you actually save a good bit of money. And usually with us, we can help you save at least half, depending on your circumstances.
Yes, and just to piggyback on that, a lot of people hear about this 5-year look back, and that is kind of a point in the process that if you do plan, usually within 5 years of advance of needing a nursing home, you can save 100% of your assets. So, but that doesn't mean you can't save something even within the 5 years.
So, Kimbro, let's talk about the spouse who stays home. How does Arkansas law protect that person from being left with nothing when their husband or wife needs nursing home care?
Oh, yeah. So that is a big issue. It's called, Medicaid has a program called Spousal impoverishment. And what that means is Medicaid doesn't want to impoverish the spouse in the community so that the ill spouse or the sick spouse has to use up all the family resources to pay for care. There are rules in place to protect the spouse living in the community or the one living at home, and that's called the spousal impoverishment rule. Now, the best thing about that rule is it allows us as attorneys to reposition assets between the spouses and transfer assets through a mechanism to the spouse living at home. And a lot of times we can protect up to 100% of the family resources when the first spouse goes into a facility. So a lot of people don't understand that. They think they're bound by the $2,000 resource limit rule, which says you can only have $2,000 to qualify for Medicaid, excluding a home, a car, and your personal belongings at home. But that does not apply when you're married. When you're married, there are amazing things we can do to preserve the entire estate, depending on how the estate is structured. So Medicaid allows the spouse in the community to retain assets while their loved one in the facility can qualify for Medicaid. Now, it does take a professional to help you do that. You can't just do this on your own because the rules, you'll get caught up in them and they'll spit you out, so to speak, and you'll be denied coverage and you'll wonder, what's going on. A lot of times a family member will go into a facility and the nursing home will say, you pay all your money to the facility and we'll help your loved one get on Medicaid. You do not have to do that. You can do a Medicaid plan, even in a crisis with a loved one in a facility, and move assets in a strategic manner provided by Medicaid, and then you can protect your assets. But a lot of facilities don't understand that, so it does take a professional, usually an elder law attorney, to help you do that.
Gentlemen, many people fear that Medicaid planning means giving everything away. How do you explain the difference between reckless transfers and that smart asset protection that follows the law?
It's a really good question. Because of those gifting rules, we recommend not just giving your assets away, especially your house, to like your child, for example. There's actually a few different IRS rules on why you wouldn't want to do that too. So in that category, that would be more the reckless gifting. There are things you can do as far as giving assets to your family or repositioning assets into a trust that allow you to retitle assets that might help you qualify for Medicaid without actually losing control of the assets. Meaning, like, if you have your house in a trust, you can actually still use your trust even though you don't own title to your house personally. So there's some nuances and things, but the big takeaway is you shouldn't give away your house or any major asset to your child if you're in a situation where you might need a nursing home.
Yeah, and one of the things that we tell clients is don't give your house to your children. There's a better way, because one of the issue there is if your child owns the home and they get sued, right, or they fall into bankruptcy, or if they get divorced, they may lose that house in litigation, but you're living in it, so you can lose your home because it's not their primary residence. They don't get a primary residence homestead exclusion because they're not living in it. The parent is. So, and also if you give your home to your kids and at your death, if they decide to sell it, you're giving them a tax bill for capital gains because it's not their primary residence. They're not going to be able to sell that home at your death and avoid capital gains. So there's a good way and there's a not so good way. And so what we tell clients is we prefer an irrevocable gift trust to put assets into. And what that happens is when you put your house into that gift trust, and it's for your kids when you pass away. Now, you're still giving it to your kids eventually, but right now you can retain control of that house as trustee. Nobody's going to make you move out. And it's going to be protected from your children's creditors as well as your own creditors if you do this in advance. You can't really do this at the last minute when you're going into a nursing home because, you'll experience some delays and things of that nature. So what we usually recommend is an irrevocable residence trust, hopefully at least 5 years in advance of needing a nursing home, and then you can put cash assets into it as well. All these will be protected from lawsuits and creditors and not count as a resource for Medicaid. So there's a good way to give assets to your children, and there's a not so good way. And so we like to say you need to seek advice of an experienced elder law attorney. We'll help you make those decisions. And so again, we do make gifts. It's not like you. So the difference between a reckless gift is just giving it outright to your kids versus putting it in a protected trust, which I think was the point of your question. Thank you.
So Kimbro, what role do Medicaid-compliant trust or gifting strategists play in helping families protect those assets and still qualify for that care?
Yeah, so that's, again, leads right into what I was saying is if you use a protected asset trust and you make transfers 5 years in advance, Medicaid does not count that trust as a resource, meaning that all the assets that you placed in that trust previously are not counted, which means you can shelter resources by positioning them in a trust for the benefit of your family. And then when it comes time to qualify for Medicaid, those resources do not count towards your Medicaid eligibility. So again, this is what we call pre-planning when you're trying to plan. And usually I tell clients around 65, that's a good time to do this. You're still got your health. But any time after 60 is a good time to put your house. You can start putting other assets into it, whether it's cash or investment accounts or whatever. But we usually recommend that this is the best type of planning. If you don't plan in advance, there are other things we can do, but generally speaking, it's not as effective. And I think I've kind of lost track of what I was saying, but in any event, hopefully that answers the question.
Absolutely. And Shane, for families already in crisis, for example, a parent that is in rehab or headed to that facility or a facility, is it ever too late to protect anything?
No, it's not. If you don't do anything, you're gonna lose a lot. But even in a crisis, even if anywhere in that process, anywhere in that medical process where it looks like mom and dad are about to have to go to a nursing home, they're going to need that advanced care. We can still save the house and usually at least half of the assets.
Yeah, because what we were saying a minute ago, under the spousal impoverishment rules, even at the last minute, we can save 100% of the assets by repositioning them with the well spouse. I mean, that is a big opportunity that most people, frankly, have never heard of. And then again, if you're single and you've waited till the last minute, we can still save your home, and we can usually save half of all your cash. So again, it's never too late to save money, but it's always best to plan ahead.
That's right.
Awesome. And finally, gentlemen, what message do you want Arkansas families to hear about long-term care and financial protection, especially those feeling overwhelmed or guilty about maybe asking for help?
Well, I will just say people that are looking for asset protection, we like to think that our clients are living. A lot of times clients come to an attorney and they say, well, I want to avoid probate. And, I don't think that, I should live off of the government subsidies. But what we tell people is Medicaid is the largest payer of long-term care in this country. Everybody gets it. Folks would go broke and bankrupt if we didn't have this safety net for folks. But as experienced elder law attorneys, we know how to access those benefits for families. And this is important. Folks have lived all their life. They've paid taxes. They've been good paying citizens. And so the government needs to be there to help them in their senior years. It's all about protecting the seniors so they don't have to go broke and outlive their money one day. And so this is effective planning. It's not any different. When we say Medicaid planning, that there's no shame in that. It's not any different than what we would call tax planning. Everybody goes to CPAs and attorneys to figure out how to save taxes. Well, people come to us because they need to get assistance for long-term care, and we explain to them that we can do Medicaid planning for you in the same manner to help you save assets. And then this way it esteems the parents. They're able to leave a legacy to their children and not have to worry about leaving them a goose egg when they pass away and lose the home. No one has to do that, but they have to take steps. And I tell them, I applaud them for coming to see an attorney to talk about this rather than just do nothing. Because if they do nothing, chances are they will lose it all.
Amazing. Gentlemen, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you today.
Thank you all for tuning in to the Jurist Law Podcast with Kimbro Stevens and Shane Cox. For more information or to connect with their team, visit juristlawgroup.com. Don't forget to like, subscribe to the show, and leave a review if you found this episode helpful. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and leave us a review in the comments.